Right, folks, for those of you that have just joined us, you know that our climbing structures in Western Cape have been doing fantastic. And recently, our Western Cape climbing side went to the South African Climbing Championships that was held in Johannesburg. We spoke to Chris Naude and Tiffany Wells not so long ago. We thought we would bring you that one more time. In studio with me now, Chris Naude and Tiffany Wells from Western Cape Climbing. Chris, welcome back.
Hi JP, thank you for having us. It's always nice to tell future climbers what they're missing.
Yeah, and Tiffany, welcome back as well. You know that chair now well now.
Yeah, thank you.
Chris, let's go back before we talk about this past weekend, because this was a big one for you guys, the South African Climbing Championships. And Tiffany, we're going to need to know how things went with all of your athletes and that. Let's just go back sort of 3-4 months. The lead, there's for you guys, of course, you do lead climbing, which I'll again ask. I'll ask Chris to explain that to us, or Tiffany. Tell me about the last 3 months, 4 months, the timelines leading up to the point where you're actually getting on a bus or a plane to go to Joburg. Where did it all start?
Well, it started last year already. We started working on the high performance group, which we identified. We did selection competitions here and put together a high performance group of youngsters, with the idea that we can really focus on their training and lead up to this selection competition and ultimately the Youth World Championship in Korea. So that's where we're heading, and it's been a very successful time. It's the first time we've really done a
But do you have a specific milestone? Was there one? I mean, Tiffany, you guys started looking at this from a high performance point of view a while back already, and you earmarked specific things. I mean, you didn't just say, well, we've got a tournament, let's keep practicing. Did you guys have a specific plan leading up through club championships and district championships? How did it work?
So initially what we did was we looked at the timeline leading through up until our competitions. And what's important to note is that especially in South Africa, we have that December period of holidays. And to change up the mindset of the athletes to train through the holidays as well. So from a high performance perspective, what we did was we equipped those athletes so that they can still go on holiday, enjoy time with the family, all of that, but train through that December, January holiday gap so that they were ready, because our competitions start in February. To keep them ready, keep them fit, all of that sort of thing leading into those competitions.
So what's interesting for me, Chris, is before we start talking about the Youth World Games and the Olympics that are coming up and how you did on the weekend, going back those few months, and if you're looking at things from an administrative point of view, your alignment with the coaching and climbing athletes obviously has to be in sync, because they're going to be saying to you, Chris, we need a competition on this day and that day, and then the administrators have to make it happen.
No, absolutely. So it sort of works backward from the Youth Worlds. We need a certain amount of lead up time before the athletes are selected, and before that we need to have our selection to see who goes to the national selections, and so it sort of works its way back. In previous times, there's always been a thing where, especially from the administrators, sort of saying, sorry, but the kids are at school, and at least not at school, and they're on holiday at the moment, and therefore they can't train. And I think that's what we changed dramatically here. Is we just said no.
So do you guys sit together and because you obviously have a administration machine, and then there's the participation and coaching and athlete. Do you guys have meetings and you sit together and you say, okay, this is what Tiffany needs to get from point A to point B. How do we make that work?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think we have a very tight group. I mean, I think so anyway. I hope so.
But I mean, that's what a requirement.
And it is really important to have that connection between the administration and trying to get all the pathways through to the international federation and rules and all of those sort of things.
Because it's not. I mean, it's not just about saying, okay, well, we're rubber stamping it. You've got to get behind it and say, okay, well, we need budget, we need etc. Do you sit there and say, okay, right, Tiffany, you want to have A, B, C, 10 events or 10 training sessions, 10 workshops. What do you need? How much is it going to cost? Do you guys have those?
The budget is always an issue.
Yeah.
And we sat with them and said, look, let's sit down together and come up with what we can do. Obviously, there's pie in the sky stuff, and you think, well, ideally we'd like to have this, and then you look at it again and you say, well, we can't actually afford that, so let's cut that down a bit and see if we can do some fundraising and.
So this is the part where the coach is always asking for more than can be given. Tiffany,
but we're all on the same side. So
yeah, but there's not a coach in the world who doesn't say I want my kids dropped off with a helicopter or something that is out of reach. What's your typicals? If you go back to November now last year, what was typically on your wish list? Because you are working on this periodization process of building your athletes up to a point and going to the SA champs, getting to provincial champs, going to the world champs, youth games, Olympics, and so on. What's typically on your wish list? Because 2 months ago when we were talking, you were specifically talking about high performance and things you were active with at the time.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your typical wish list that you would be going to Chris with and say, right, this is what I need to make it happen.
Are we talking about the pie in the sky wish list?
Yes,
or are we talking about...
Yeah.
I mean, from a high performance perspective, especially with the way climbing is going, especially on an international stage, we want to dream big. We want to be able to open a facility where we can train athletes, that we can have all the holds that all of the guys overseas climb on, so that our athletes are prepared and know what to expect in Korea. So especially with the opportunity to go to Dallas, right? The facilities that they have to train those athletes is incredible. And when we saw them, we were like, this is what we need in South Africa. But I think that's still a long time in the pipeline, and we need to work towards that.
Okay, so what did you get when you then eventually put your list together and said, right, this is what we need? What did you get?
So we're very fortunate in that we have really good relationships, and my connection as well with the climbing gyms in Cape Town. So from that, what we've managed to do is we've managed to get those gyms to partner and help the high performance programs. So they're very open to us having our kids come through and train in their facilities. They're open to setting routes for us, setting competition simulations, giving them as much as they possibly can.
So how does
so
that
they
work?
can train.
When you say, like, okay, well, you know that you need to have a team at a venue at a specific time, who calls the kids? Do you call the kids and say, right, I need you at practice on a Saturday from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock? Or is that Chris's job? Or the team, who does that?
So there's actually another person in this whole thing, and he's also Chris. Yeah. So we have Chris Allen, and he heads up the high performance. He's of course been on show with you before. Yeah, so he's heads up high performance, and he, luckily for me, does a lot of the admin side. Okay. So we sit down, we'll have meetings, we'll chat about what we want to do in each month, what we need to get done so that we can best prepare our athletes. We set out a timeline on where and how we want all of these events and workshops and all of those things to come into play.
You give that to other Chris?
And then Chris and I generally, we will book those venues. We'll chat directly with the athletes. We'll do all of that sort of stuff. Okay. And then as long as we're like towing the line in terms of how the budget's going and all of that, Chris is happy.
Yeah. So, so do you
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a challenge. The gyms are commercial gyms, and they have two markets that they're looking at. I mean, their primary market is not the competition, the high performance competition people. So when we talk about setting routes, it's not like a tennis court, which is a tennis court. The routes look different for the high performance.
You're not the one that does the bookings. You don't phone and say, right, guys, this is our calendar. You've got your team behind that. They're just telling you, basically, they're telling you how much money they need. Is that much? Right, folks.
We have quite a good interaction, and we all kind of know what we want, and it's an agreement.
Well, you're not at that space yet where, well, I think that it's interesting. Folks, we're really delving into now where we're having the discussion around what it takes to be a successful team, because at least 50% of any successful team out there is about good administration. Somebody behind the scenes has to book the flights, somebody has to book the buses, someone has to order the kit, someone has to do all the work behind the scenes.
Find the money.
And find the money, yeah. We're going to talk more about that after the break, so don't go away. Of course, Team Western Cape Climbing, having had huge success now at the South African Championships. Back in a sec, don't go away. Right, folks, that's a wrap from us today. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place. And fantastic sporting weekend. Bye-bye.